me now to discuss the conflict in Israel and Gaza is a TV host and satirist, Bassem Youssef. Bassem, it's great to have you back on the program. I wish it was under different circumstances. First of all, what is your reaction to what happened on October the 7th?
Oh, it was terrible, of course. I mean, we kind of get our news kind of also secondhand because, you know, my wife's family, they live in Gaza. They have cousins and uncles there, and their house also was bombed. We haven't been able to communicate with them for the past 3 days. Communication are lost. So we don't know actually what is the, how are they doing, but, you know, we're used to that. I mean, it's just like, it's very repetitive. We're used to that. We're used to them being bombed every time and moving from one place to the other. You know, it's just like those Palestinians, they're very dramatic. Israel killing us. But they never die. I mean, they always come back. You know, they're very difficult to kill, very difficult people to kill. I know because I'm married to one. I tried many times, couldn't kill her.
I mean, there's a dark humor there, and I understand why. Because
no, it's not dark humor. I try to get to her every time, but she uses our kids as human shields. I can never take her out. I would say I really applaud Israel for doing one thing that no military force in the world does. Because I heard Ben Shapiro and I heard Ron DeSantis, and they said Israel is the only military force in the world that warns civilians before bombing them. I mean, how fucking cute. That is so nice of them. Because with this logic, if Russian troops started warning Ukrainians before bombing their houses, we're cool with Putin, right? I mean, okay, Habibi, you have warned them, go invade, it's fine, you have done your job.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that sets the stage for our next session, viral from the Israel-Gaza war zone, a stinging comic commentary. Shivarur on stage to take this forward.
I really don't know how to introduce our next guest after you've watched that video. Fun fact, I happened to be in Israel when that video actually dropped, so it was something that absolutely exploded. Now, Bassem Youssef is someone all of you have heard about. That video got 22 million views when it first came out, and it spawned an entire ecosystem, for want of a better word, of knowledge and awareness about what was happening between Israel and Gaza and Palestine. This is a man, ladies and gentlemen, who fled from Egypt in 2014, knowing full well perhaps that the war for freedom of speech, expression, satire, commentary was going to make him someone who would spend perhaps the rest of his life on the run. So we're very, very lucky to have someone who continues to spend his life provoking, commenting, satirizing, and making fun of the most serious things happening in the most dangerous parts of the world. It is our deepest honor to welcome Bassem Youssef.
That's a very scary visual. Hi, everybody. I am very pleased to be here in India. By the way, this is my first time ever in India. And this week, yeah, this is my first time. And this week is very special for me because in 5 days, I'm going to turn 50 years old. So the last thing I would ever imagine that I would spend my birthday in India. And I have to tell you, I've been here only for 2 days. Man, New Delhi, this is Cairo multiplied by 1,000. Wallahi. Like, I live now in Los Angeles, and everybody in Los Angeles bitches about traffic. And I tell them, if you haven't been to Cairo, you haven't seen traffic. And the thing is, this is what we do as brown people. We like to compete with white people with who has the biggest misery. It's like, oh, you have traffic? Wait, ya habibi, listen to me, you know? But I have to tell you, after 2 days in New Delhi, you win. We cannot compete with that kind of traffic. I thought it was, alhamdulillah, you guys are amazing. So it is amazing that I'm here, and I am very, very pleased to be here, and it's such an honor. And I don't know, I thought a lot about how to start my speech. So I thought of starting a speech of maybe like an unusual way, maybe quoting someone that you might know. And the quote goes as, starvation of an underfed Bengalese is less serious than that of sturdy Greeks. That was Winston Churchill responding to the news of millions of Indians killed in the Bengal famine in 1943. Churchill was also the one who said, "I do not admit that a great wrong has been done to the Red Indians of America or the black people of Australia. I do not admit that a wrong has been done to these people by the fact that a stronger race, a higher grade race, a more worldly wise race has come in and taken their place." Now, I know that my presence here carries certain expectations of talking about certain topics, or might I say, one certain topic, but it is all connected. Human stories across our history, with their pain, struggle, grave injustice, are all connected. The stories might come from different parts of the world, different eras of our past, but at the core, they are more or less the same story. It's a story of who writes the story, who owns the narrative, and who manipulates the truth. Winston Churchill was a hero to the British Empire. He is even considered by many as the greatest Briton that ever lived. But for India and for many other ex-British colonies, he was a racist, colonial, and hateful enemy. Same goes for many European and American politicians, leaders, and military commanders all through history. Someone's hero is another one's colonial nightmare. But we don't write the story. They do. It is also a very old and repetitive story. Throughout history, humans killed other humans, conquered humans, enslaved humans, exploited humans. From an evolutionary point of view, we are animals, but we don't want to feel like animals. I won't just get up and kill you in the morning. Who do you think I am? An animal? No, I'm human. I am evolved. I only kill if I absolutely need to. So I need a justification. You are a threat. You are a danger. You brought it on yourself. But most importantly, you are not as human as me. Under the Nazis, Jewish people were called rats. It's not that easy to put a human in a gas chamber, but a rat, put 10, put 100, put 1,000,000. It's just a rat, an animal, a subhuman lower than me. You can't just take another human, put him in chains, enslave them, torture them, and treat them like animals. You need to see him as an animal, as a savage, as someone who doesn't deserve to be human. It's their color. It's their primitive culture. They are less than me. You can't just starve or kill whole population. You need to see them as unworthy of living. Killing humans is difficult, but doing it because of feeling superior, entitled, that's easy. In short, humans have been consistent about one thing and one thing alone: being assholes to other humans. Throughout our history, we killed people because they had the wrong religion, the wrong color, the wrong ethnicity. But they don't even have to be different. Even with people who looked, sounded, and believed the same, we, like the assholes we are, managed to find something, anything, to excuse ourselves for our shitty behaviors towards others. Maybe we can't help it. Maybe human nature is by nature a shitty nature. But there is a problem. Humans actually believe that they can do better. After World War II, with the formation of the UN and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the spree of nations' independence around the world and the civil rights movements and the fight for equality and prosperity for all, we thought that we could evolve into better humans, that the atrocities that happened in the past will never be repeated, never again. We are not primitive anymore. We are not in the dark ages anymore. We have defeated colonialism, racism, and injustice. We can do better and finally become human. How embarrassingly naive we were. We maintained our brutality, but we became more creative in justifying the shit we do to other humans. All because we became more connected to reality. You see, a long time ago, we weren't aware of what's happening far away from us. If you were a resident of ancient Athens or Rome, if you lived in Spain or Portugal in the 1600s, if you were a citizen of England or France in the 1800s, you would have enjoyed a good life under the power of those empires. But this quality of life was made possible through the exploitation of other nations and people. But the people of these empires were too far removed from the process. They enjoyed the fruit of their nation's dominance without having to know how it happened and at what human cost. 100 years ago, you would have never heard this in London. Let's have some tea. It's fair trade. No Indians were harmed in the process. No, people were like, oh, spices. I don't know how we got them, but yay. Same is true today. I now live in America, which in its spare time invades people here and there. And because of that, we enjoy great discounts at Costco. But now we are not that remote because of the technology that is available in our hands. We now have a first-row seat to the killing, the abuse, and the exploitation necessary to provide a life of comfort, wealth, and prosperity for the mighty and the powerful. So now, we as humans need even better justification, more effective distractions, and more bullshit reasoning so we don't feel bad about ourselves. Now, we need a better constructed reality to make us feel okay with all of this, an alternative reality, or in layman terms, propaganda. But despite our progress, and despite our elaborate propaganda, our justifications to kill others remain the same. They are savages, terrorists. They are coming for us. They have WMDs. Boom, let's invade Iraq. Or like how ISIS decided that the rest of us are infidels, heathens, and that God gave them the right to kill other men and enslave their women. Or when Israelis feeling that because they were God-chosen people, they can kill others that God didn't choose. Here is the thing with propaganda. You cannot refute propaganda with just facts and truth. Propaganda is meant to make you emotional, to make you have a visceral reaction. The lies have to be so elaborate in order to prevent you from using common sense. They distract you, throw you off balance, ignore reality, and make you focus on what they want you to focus on. Before I took the stage, they played a video of my interview with Piers Morgan talking about the war in Gaza. I was put in a position to defend people who were vilified while being slaughtered because the Israeli propaganda made millions believe that these people deserve to die. They did it through lies, propaganda, twisting facts, and emotional blackmail. In these situations, the truth doesn't work. Facts don't work. You need to destroy propaganda in a way that is slick and effective. Suddenly, satire comes in handy. How many people should we kill? As many as we can. But Israel is warning civilians before bombing them. Very, very cute. All I did was regurgitate their talking points to them to make them see how stupid they are. Propaganda is not just about lies, it's about distraction. Just take a small sample of the cliches they use in order to divert the conversation. I'm sure you heard these one after the other. What is a proportionate response? Does Israel have the right to defend itself? Do you condemn Hamas? Does Israel have the right to exist? October 7th, decapitated babies, babies. Women were raped. Babies were put in the oven. They are killing babies. October 7th. Why don't the Arab take in the Palestinians? Where is the outrage when Muslims kill other Muslims? Why don't you talk about Syria, Libya, Sudan, Yemen? October 7th, you are anti-Semitic. You are a Jew hater. You are a terrorist sympathizer. Do you condemn Hamas? October 7th. We will talk about everything except the killing that is happening every day as we sit here discussing bullshit talking points. This style of distraction is inspired by a very old debating trick called gish galloping. Gish galloping is a way where one side throws distraction, lies, and half-truth at you in order to confuse you, distract you away from the real issues. We have seen this on display every day since the war started. History only started on October 7th. We are not allowed to talk about what came before. You criticize Israel, you want ceasefire, you hate the Jews. What about the decapitated babies? So now they shut down the conversation. They turn it emotional, visceral, but I don't blame them. They do what other countries do. They lie. They lie and they lie and they lie and they lie. And when you think they are done, they go like DJ Khaled, another one. No, I don't blame them. I blame the Western media, the same media that gave us lectures and history lessons about transparency, honesty, journalistic integrity, and holding people accountable. The decapitated babies, the gang rape stories, the babies in ovens, these were lies that have been refuted by the Israeli media themselves. None of the Western media outlets retracted any of those stories with the proper apologies. Hours, no, days were dedicated to the most obscene, outlandish stories, and no one said, sorry guys, we messed up. The Israeli media talked extensively about the Hannibal Directive and how a huge portion of Israeli civilians were killed by not-so-friendly fire. CNN, BBC, nothing. They were busy publishing headlines like 15 people were killed in Gaza. Killed by who? We don't know. How are they killed? We don't know. They have been doing this forever. One of my favorite headlines by the New York Times is from 2014, when Israel fired a missile killing 5 people in a coffee shop in Gaza. And the headline came as, "Missile finds patrons at cafe." How did it find them? We don't know. What would have happened if it never found them? We have no idea. Or when the Wall Street Journal, just a few weeks ago in October, published this headlines: "Blast goes off at Orthodox Church in Gaza." Yes, there was a miracle blast that miraculously happened. You don't believe in miracles? Come on, it actually happened in a church. Miracles do happen. The Western media that has been lecturing us about the dangers of using religion and Holy Scripture to justify political actions and launching wars, those same people have no problem talking about the historical claims of the chosen people and their indisputable right in the promised land. Really, chosen people. Chosen by whom? Promised. Promised by whom? God? Your God? My God? Whose God? We don't know. It is funny how the West uses religion as it pleases. They ridicule and criticize brown people religions at will. Your religion is violent. Your religion is nonsense. Your religion is ridiculous, savage, primitive. You can't take political decisions just because your scripture tells you so. And yet, they openly talk about God choosing certain people to do whatever the hell they want. And this is where I get confused. If they really believe in this whole thing about chosen people, then why don't they just all convert to Judaism? If you believe that they are the chosen people, won't you feel left out? Won't you feel unchosen? I mean, the hypocrisy. We are the West. We are secular. We are liberal. We don't care about religion. But when it comes to Israel, suddenly it's biblical. By the way, the lies and the false justification that have been used to kill other people and wiping out whole communities have been recycled over and over again. 1898, the Wilmington Massacre. 1906, the Atlanta Massacre. 1912, Forsyth County Massacre. 1921, the Tulsa Massacre. 1922, Perry, Florida. 1923, Rosewood, Florida. 1931, the Scottsboro Boys Trial in Alabama. These were massacres against black people in America, and all of them started the same way: a rumor, an allegation that some black people raped or assaulted white women. That gave white Americans an excuse to kill, torture, lynch, and even burn down whole communities, displacing them, destroying their homes, hospitals, and schools. Collective punishment, gendered accusations, and displacement based on false rumors. Sounds familiar? They even still use the same kind of accusation whenever people speak against injustice. When some people try to support the black community in their plight for justice and equality, they were called race traitors, self-hating whites, self-hating Americans. Same as we see today, when Jewish people stand up against Israeli war crimes, they are called self-hating Jews. And it doesn't matter how Jewish you are. The co-author of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Stephen Hessel, was a Jew. He was a Holocaust survivor. He was part of the French resistance against the Nazis. When he stood up for Palestinian rights, he was called an anti-Semite, just like that. Together with many Jewish people, including politicians, comedians, actors, ex-IDF soldiers who rejected Zionist lies, and even rabbis. They too were called self-hating Jews and anti-Semites. It's the best way to shut down the conversation. I got a taste of that myself, because my position against them, they now call me a Jew hater, an anti-Semite, and a secret member of the Muslim Brotherhood. But I'm used to that. In Egypt 13 years ago, when I hosted my political satire show, and because of my views, I was called an infidel, a traitor, a Freemason, a secret Jew, an underground Mossad agent, and my absolute favorite, I was called a CIA operative who has been recruited by Jon Stewart to use satire to bring down the country. I'm running out of countries and I'm running out of accusations. Yes, satire is a huge threat to propaganda because those who manipulate people and blackmail them through lies and fear, they know that satire is their kryptonite. Because when you laugh at someone, you are not afraid of them anymore. When you ridicule their lies, they have no legs to stand on. And when you use common sense, laced with a little bit of humor, their talking points self-implode. They don't want you to call them out, because if you do, you will ruin whatever they have to be trying to achieve. Stripping Palestinians away from humanity, painting them as terrorists, savages, and monsters so everyone can feel better killing them. They act like a typical narcissist every time you expose them. When they're like, how dare you ruin my reputation by telling people what I actually do? Americans did that with black people. Britain did that with Indians. The West did that with Iraq. Lies, propaganda, and dehumanization. But to be fair, it is not just white people doing it to brown people and black people. Brown and black people dehumanized others too. At certain point of history, we were cruel and violent against other people. Human history is just one big abusive, toxic relationship. But it just happens that now white people rule the planet. And they do that with the very advanced technology and very scary weapons. So the destruction and the decimation are much more pronounced and the killing is much more effective. Today, I don't have to drive my sword into your body to kill you. I can just sit behind a screen, push a button, and blow your whole block up. Advanced technology allowed humans to be more removed and more lethal while being conveniently away from the bloodshed. How many times did you hear them brag about bombing their enemies back to the Stone Ages, killing them like animals? But there's a problem. When you treat people like animals, animals is what you're gonna get. When someone attacks another one with a knife, it's terrorism. But if I fly comfortably in my $64 million F-16, pushing a button to drop a 16,000 A-84 multi-purpose bomb on a residential block, killing 200 people, that's not terrorism, that is war. Those are just collateral damages, sad and inevitable outcome of war. We have gotten so comfortable killing people from afar, from behind screens, treating them like savages that they roam behind fortified walls. It's easy and convenient. But here's the problem. When that screen is removed, when the fortified walls get breached, you will find yourself face to face with what you have created. You bomb them to the Middle Ages, then Middle Age brutality is what you're gonna get. You treated them like savages, they will attack you like savages. Despite all that, I still consider myself very fortunate living in today's world. I often marvel at our human ability to innovate and create a better life that is easy, convenient, and even at sometimes very entertaining. But I'm also scared of our own ability to hate, discriminate, and self-destruct. I hope that we truly evolve to understand that we are all the same. I wish that we can understand that no matter how much we think we can be powerful enough to abuse, exploit, and kill other people, what we are really doing is killing our own humanity. I wish that the leaders we celebrate would be leaders who help lift all humans, help all humans, be good to all humans, not just leaders who acquire their fame and status from using and abusing a group of people from the benefit of their own. And speaking of leaders, and in closing, there is just one thing left for me to say. Fuck Winston Churchill. Thank you very much. Well, you know, we can talk like this until they do that. Not to keep them waiting. Hello.
Can we just do it like this? Yeah? Okay. So you've given us a whole lot to think about, Bassem. We didn't expect anything less, but I'm going to start off with what you started with and how you ended. I'm not going to repeat the words, but beep Winston Churchill is something that I dare say, would get a rise out of most Indians.
Okay.
So you've warmed yourself to all Indians by saying that about Winston Churchill. But why? Why did you think that, talking about Winston Churchill and the British would get everyone's blood up?
Well, because
It's a very provocative thing, and it's something that a lot of people relate to in this country.
Well, because we basically, I said before, Egypt and India is like Egypt but multiplied by 1,000. We were also occupied by the British for a very long time. And we understand what is the meaning of being looked down, and what's the meaning of actually being discriminated against, being looked down as a lower race because they think they are better and they have the right to exploit our riches and our resources because they are entitled to do that. And while they are heroes in their own land, they do that on the expense of our own people and our own resources. So I understand how you feel, and I felt kind of a more of a camaraderie with Indians in this particular matter.
I wanted to talk about anti-Semitism now, Bassem, because that's something that you're attacked with a lot. You're called a Jew hater, you're labeled as anti-Semitic. People are unwilling to listen to anything you have to say sometimes because they say, no, the place he's coming from is anti-Semitism. And that's one of the themes that you just touched upon right now when you talked about how all these things are thrown at you so that the essence of what you want to say is diluted or diverted from. How do you respond when people call you a Jew hater or an anti-Semite?
Well, here's the thing. The accusation of anti-Semitism is a very dangerous accusation. No one should ever be hated or discriminated against because of their ethnicity and religion. But the way that it's been used and overused and abused, it's being used in a way to shut down conversation. Everybody's an anti-Semite, and it's been so overused that it doesn't mean anything anymore. It's like, whenever you call everybody Islamophobe, you know what people say? Okay, I'm an Islamophobe. What you gonna do, right? I don't believe that way, that when you throw accusations at people in order to shut down the conversation. Jonathan Glazer, he was like an Israeli Jewish director. He won an Oscar for his movie about the Holocaust. And because he refused to have his Jewish faith to be used as an excuse to kill other people, he was called an anti-Semite. So if you overuse a certain accusation, it means nothing. It means nothing anymore. It's like, you want to call me an anti-Semite, call me I don't care. But the thing is, here's the thing. Even in India, even in America, even in Egypt, the way that people use like, oh, you hate your country, you hate your religion, you're not Indian enough, you're not Egyptian enough, you're not American enough. You're a self-hating American, you're self-hating Egyptian, self-hating Indian. This is a way in order to create this visceral emotional blackmail so people will be scared to speak up. So I think what happened is good because we need to speak up because they cannot use these empty accusations against us anymore. Because if they use that, this is going to be the first step to shut down the conversation and do whatever the hell they want while you being afraid to speak up.
Being called a self-loathing Indian is very much part of the conversation here in India as well, so we know what you're talking about. But
But the thing is, like, yeah. I'm sure that a lot of people who've been called self-loathing Indians are people who criticize what's happening in India out of love. The people who actually criticize things in their own country or their own religion, if I don't care about my country, I will not criticize what's happening. Right? Or if I'm complicit in what's happening, why would I criticize? And again, as you said, self-loathing Indian, self-hating Jew, self-hating American. It is the same exact way and strategy in order to shut down conversation.
Many of the things you've spoken about are extremely evocative, and the parallels you've drawn are themes that resonate with us as Indians as well, from your Egyptian experience. And I just wanted to quickly tell our audience here, because I was approached by many people, raise your hands if you have a specific question for Bassem. You can ask him, he will answer you. We've got about 25 more minutes. So I have a few questions, so until we pass some mics around, if you raise your hand, I'll see you. Okay, yeah, over there. But before you, I'm going to quickly ask one question. Since you talked about, Bassem, elaborate lies, propaganda as, subtle elaborate lies. It's not loud, it's insidious, it's subtle. You don't really know it when it's happening. What's the most elaborate lie currently in your view?
In my view?
Yeah, in your view.
Well, there's a lot of them. Like, the whole thing about the propaganda that there was like gang raping of women and decapitated babies. The Israeli media itself has refuted these claims time after time after time after time. And that's why I use the example from the black history, African American history in America, because they would use that in order to kill and decimate whole community. I don't know if you know about that, about Tulsa. In Tulsa, in Oklahoma, there was a very prominent and very lavish black community. They had good businesses. They were like raising up in the socioeconomic ladder, and just because of a lie that some black person assaulted a white woman in an elevator, their whole district was burned out. In Atlanta, it happened the same, and they even pushed them and displaced them into a smaller place in the middle of Atlanta. So that's why it is this kind of ways in order to use a very, very elaborate lies in order to kill people.
Okay. We've got a question over there.
This guy did it first.
Okay, there first and then you. Yeah, go ahead.
Promoting me up the order, sir. So while I very much enjoy satire myself, thank you for promoting me up the order. While I very much enjoy satire myself, Malcolm Gladwell hosted a podcast where he said that satire often misses the mark because a lot of the audience takes it literally. They don't know you're joking. Have you ever faced this problem, and do you have a view on satire? Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Even especially in the Arab world, a lot of people mix satire with disrespect. If you joke about something, you're disrespecting me, and this comes from an authoritarian mind. Because if I'm in a place of authority, you don't have the right to criticize me. It is kind of like the father figure, man. I'm your father. How come that you criticize me? And that works in families, but that doesn't work in politics. Because in politics, you're an elected politician. It doesn't matter how old or how respectful, you're not my father. You are there to do a job for me. I mean, this is the idea of a public servant. So when you criticize using satire, it is a way of freedom of expression. But people, they shut down the conversation. They call you disrespectful. They even use religion in order to discredit you. So of course, satire doesn't miss the mark. People who criticize it, they miss the mark.
Do they say, why are you making fun of a serious issue?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah.
Right, Bassem, here. Humor me a little. You haven't spoken about your terror past, your connection with terrorists back home. Why? Tell us all. Also, you criticize the West, but when you were to flee Egypt, you landed in the great US of A.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, here's the thing. I criticize a country that I wanted to be better. I tried that with my country and I failed. Now I'm in a new country. That's why I don't want to be running out of countries. Well, here's the thing. This is like a very. I like that you asked this, because this is exactly what a white person would tell me. It's like, if you're criticizing the West, why are you staying there? This is exactly what they say, right? But the thing is, we go to the West.
Don't insult me by calling me white.
No, of course not. I said like one. But but here's the thing. The way that we go to the West, because they marketed their countries very well. Come to us. We have freedom of expression. We come. And we speak up. It's like, no, go back to where you came from. It's like, come on. That doesn't work. If you promise people to come there for freedom of expression and equality, we go there and we take this promise. And again, when we criticize the West, we don't criticize the West out of hate. We want it to be out of love, so they will be better for themselves and for the rest of humanity. The same way that I criticize my own country, I don't do it out of hate. I don't do it out of spite. I do it out of love in order to be better. Thank you.
Speaking of, thank you, Geeta, for that. The land of
and also, like, I want to escape. Like, I wanted to play the white man game. They always win, so I want to be on the winning side.
Speaking of the land of the free and home of the brave, Bassem,
yes.
You've got an interesting name for the current president of the United States, Genocide Joe.
Genocide Joe was before me. I added geriatric to the image. It's a geriatric genocide Biden.
Yeah, so you've got an election coming up where you've decided to be much more against the current president than the guy who's up against him. How's that working out for you?
Well,
one would have imagined when it comes to Trump.
No, it doesn't. When I am against Biden, doesn't mean that I'm with Trump.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it is sad that like a democracy like America can only produce two people that should be in a nursing home. You know, it's just like, I think we should. Like, this is very sad. This is extremely sad. You know, I mean, I have a joke that I say in my stand-up comedy. I make a joke about Trump, so the Trump supporters kind of get angry. I said, like, guys, it's not that. It's just like, it is so refreshing. When Trump was president, he was in your face the whole time. He was all in the news. But now it's so refreshing to find that, to wake up in the morning and forget you have a president. And then I said, like, even Joe Biden, he wakes up in the morning and he forgets he's president. So that is the thing. I mean, the whole idea of look at it from a business point of view. How many oil companies you had in the past, and how many oil companies you have now? How many armed companies you had in the past? Now they used to have like about 53 companies. Now they are consolidated in 5. This kind of monopoly, consolidating power in a very few hands, like consolidating power in only 2 parties. These are not the 2 best candidates in America. These are the these are the candidates that are promoted by those 2 parties. Consolidating power in the hands of very few is very dangerous. It's dangerous to economy, it's like monopoly, and it's dangerous for politics, and it's dangerous for freedom of expression. So this is when you say that you do not accept what is happening, it doesn't mean that you support Trump. It means that you are against the discourse that the democratic process has taken, and I think that the United States deserve much better than this.
Well, this isn't going to happen, Bassem, but if you were moderating the presidential debate between Biden and Trump this year, what would you say to both by way of introduction? What would you say to both? You can spend 30 seconds saying something to both Biden and Trump. What would you say to them?
Please welcome a madman and a genocide man. He's like, this is the problem with the choices that we have. Like, I was just like, please, I was like, please welcome the only 2 choices that we have that we shouldn't be ending with. That is basically what we should represent them with.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Bassem. My question is like, it's when anyone does comic and satire, it is pretty much a creative work. So my question is like when you do so for the darker side of life, for a war or for so many negative things happening around the world, how do you prepare yourself? I mean, what's your creative process behind it before you do a satire show?
What is the creative process of writing comedy?
Satire and comedy of the darker subjects.
Yeah, I go into a period of depression. And then I end up with some suicidal thoughts. And this process of self-cleansing and the need to exterminate yourself, accompanied by me being coming to become 50 and in my midlife crisis, so that all creates a great environment for dark satire.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want to return to that video. We've got a still image from the Piers Morgan conversation that you had that went so incredibly viral. What happened immediately after that, Bassem? Because you went and did another longer piece with Piers that was in LA. But in the immediate aftermath of that incredible piece with Piers for the first time, what happened immediately after that? What changed for you?
Oh, my life changed forever.
Apart from your enormously bigger fan base and audience, what changed for you?
Well, of course, there are some positive changes because suddenly a lot of Arabs came to me, and they're Arabs in politics, and they said like it's kind of like opened the door for them to speak because a lot of people are afraid to speak up. So, but what happened to me is that I lost a couple of jobs in Hollywood, and I actually gained a lot of work too. And it seems that it was the best representation of how you could be dropped by the establishment, chosen by the people. Because in live comedy and live audience, you don't have to go through a middleman. You don't have to go through a studio. People come and they pay the ticket to see you. So it's more of like a vote of people, more than just like you having to go by what the establishment says.
Got a question from there?
Thank you for the honesty. We have very similar views about Mr. Churchill. I feel the conversation.
You're going to get that a lot, believe me.
Thank you. I'm very happy that I touched a nerve. Thank you.
I feel the conversation may be a bit incomplete till we don't hear a few minutes about your views about Mr. Putin. I feel that also may be included in the conversation. What do you feel about Mr. Putin?
What?
The Russian guy?
Putin.
Oh, Putin. Yeah. But how do I feel about Putin?
What do you feel about Putin? What do you think about Putin?
I think he's an authoritarian dictator. Same. It's not. It's like, here's the thing. Well, when you criticize a certain side, it doesn't mean that you like the other side. I mean, the fact that like these are the choices that are given on both sides doesn't make it right. But I don't. I think like Putin is a dictator, but I think America in itself is going to, in its own way, of becoming what we call not a. It's more of an oligarchy, because the problem with America. Here's the thing: you can talk about Putin and Russia, but like, he does what he's expected to do: to be an authoritarian, to be a brutal dictator. But America, that markets itself as a democracy, has been now turning very, very slowly to an oligarchy, because all of the politicians are being bought by special interest groups, whether by like certain lobbies or certain gun groups, or certain groups that follows the military industrial complex or the pharmaceutical company. So you end up voting for people. You have the illusion of freedom of expression, and you vote for someone, and that someone doesn't represent your interest. He represents whoever pays him in order to carry his campaign. So, like, about Putin, I mean, there's nothing really to be said about. Like, he's a classical brutal dictator. But, you know, I'm more concerned about the people who call themselves the leaders of the free world, who market themselves at the beacon of democracy. You need to step up for what you are talking about.
Western hypocrisy is another theme that resonates with us here in India, especially the Western press. You know, you took the names of certain newspapers and publications, and those very frequently become trigger points here in India as well. You know, you often say, Bassem, imagine if Israel was Russia. Would the press be looking at it the same way? Can you expand on that a little bit? What happens when you say that? Because you've given us examples of how the Western press reports on Israel. You took those very, resonant examples of the headlines they gave for that bomb that went off in a church in Gaza. And you constantly say, what if Israel was actually Russia?
Or
what if the
Palestinians were Ukraine?
Ukraine, correct.
But the thing is, when you say that, they tell you, how dare you compare them? You know, they don't even want to even start the comparison. It's like, oh, that's different. This is where the hypocrisy is very apparent, because they always talk about Israel's right to exist. What about Palestinians' right to exist? They talk about their right to defend themselves. What about Palestinians' right to defend itself? And it doesn't mean that when I talk about that I support Hamas. But this is how they want to kind of conclude the conversation. They want to put you in that corner, right? You can talk and criticize Hamas as much as you want, but Hamas is a product for what happened by Israel for years and years and years and years. So you cannot really separate them both.
Got a question back there? Yeah, the lady in the glasses back there. Then I'm coming to you.
First of all, thank you so much for sharing with all of us that there was no romantic golden age in the past. We come from great stocks of shit, and we're looking for an equally crappier future. But in times like this, when it is so dark, what gives you hope? That is, if you're still hopeful.
What gives you hope is the new generation. I mean, I think it was very apparent in the past few months how the newer generation, who were not been following the legacy media, that they formed their own media, their own research. I myself have learned so much from younger people doing research and debunking lies and propaganda that have stayed for years and years and years and years. The younger people, Basha, yes, thank you. The younger people who have now like taken over TikTok and taken over the social media, explaining things to us that this legacy media didn't do for us. So maybe my hope is that new generation, who have their own way of acquiring information, that were having their own way of knowing the truth. And that is like the thing that gave me hope. Maybe the new generation that we criticize and we make fun of because they're on TikTok the whole time, maybe there's something that we don't see, that they will come and surprise us.
Is that an opportunity, Bassem? I want to explore that for a moment before I come to you. Is that an opportunity with this new generation rejecting legacy media, forming their own opinions, doing their own research? But the cycle of violence, the circle of war continues. Why isn't that an opportunity for things to actually change?
Because they don't have the power. But power is still in the hands of the old guard.
Because the geriatrics are dying. They have to die.
Because No, dude, no, they don't have to die. We need to put them in a nursing home. But it's not that. It's just like, I think we have a great opportunity in the future for those younger people. Hopefully, when they come to the position of power, they can actually make change. And maybe it is what we have seen in the past few months that was as brutal as it was. It gives us hope in a new generation that we never thought that would perform that well.
Yeah.
Hey, hi, my name is Vimal Daga. I think you and I think everyone might believe that whatever we think and we talk much, that will happen or maybe manifest, right? We are the normal people, human beings, right? We don't like wars, we don't like any negative things, right? I know this is not good for your business, you guys' business maybe, but I think if you want to remove these kind of negative things or war, right, we have to stop. I believe the only way to stop something is to stop talking about those topics, right? If you keep on talking something, a negative or anything about war, not about you, I'm just talking very general, right? I think that is the only way to stop the negative thing, right? Otherwise, it will manifest more and more.
All right, let's follow your advice and let's talk about everything bad happens in the world and see. Let's give it a week.
Every positive things.
I mean, I think this is a very nice and spiritual way to speak about things, but I think that doesn't work because the only way things change is actually you talk about them. I understand that talking about them are noisy and disturbing. You know, as they say, democracy is very noisy. Democracy is it's a very noisy place because you have to listen to bullshit. You have to listen to horrible things. But that is how things change. You talk about things. You don't hide your head in the sand and not talk about it, hoping for it to go away. That's my simple reaction.
Speaking about war, Geeta, just before I come to you, I have a quick question, and I must ask this. Since the gentleman here talked about, how to stop war, I must ask you, because this is something you probably are asked, Bassem, which is, as far as Israel and Palestine are concerned, it's been going on for so long, cycles of violence keep coming up. How does it end? What needs to happen for it to end?
You're asking me?
I'm asking you.
This is a 75 years conflict that scholars and politicians and nations fail to stop.
That's probably why. Maybe it needs a comic.
It comes down to justice. Justice, to be fair and to give people what they deserve. You cannot expect to come and replace a whole population, take their land, and then expect them to go and die silent and disappear into the night. I mean, it happened before. It happened with the Native Americans. It happened with the Aboriginals in Australia. 50 million Native Americans were killed. 20 million Aboriginals killed in Australia. But the thing is, we don't live in 1400s anymore. We live now, we see that what happens day to day, and you cannot just like annihilate a whole people or expect to displace 7 million people outside of a certain land and expect it to go away. Like, if we really believe in our ability to be humans and to change things, we cannot allow the mistakes of the past to keep repeating because it just happened before.
Geeta, we're almost out of time, so yeah.
Thank you, Shiv, for a
Here's
second chance. I can,
second
Bassem,
question.
I can
Here's
go
the
on and on with you.
Here's the white woman again.
The white woman again. Bassem,
Yes.
you have turned a very dark age or a stage in our history into a lot of people to ponder upon, but also brought it to the fore through your humor. But it's about content generation. Where are you getting this content from? What is, just give us one glimpse of your conversation with your loser cousin back home or back in Gaza, your brother-in-law in Gaza. What's a conversation that you have, and how do you pick up content from that?
What conversation do I have with
Your
my
loser cousin or your loser brother-in-law?
By the way, my loser brother-in-law is not actually a loser, he's a doctor. And I will tell you
Come
something.
on, don't break my heart.
No.
I don't need those details.
No, wait.
And Bassem is a surgeon, by the way, for those who don't know.
I used to be a heart
Yeah,
surgeon.
we do.
Yes, I used to be a doctor, so that makes me practically an Indian. So I know, I know, guys, I tell everybody,
We have one of India's top doctors sitting right there, Dr. Naresh Trehan.
hello, sir. Okay, guys, if anybody have a headache, I tell people in my show, the only reason I became a doctor is because in the Middle East, you're expected to be one of three things: a doctor, an engineer, or a disappointment. So I've been living my life as a disappointment now for 13 years. So back to my loser cousin. Here's the thing about my loser cousin. I made that joke about him in the Piers Morgan show. I told him, my loser cousin, he's not even good enough to be a human shield, you know? And I told my wife, can you please, like, you know, send him a message that, like, I'm sorry I made fun of him, but, like, and you know what happened? She sent him a message. 3 days later, he responded. He said, like, show? What show? TV? What TV? We don't have internet. And then he said, oh, Bassem, oh, we love him. Let him say whatever they want. This is how they act. This is how they act, even in the middle of the war. And the thing is, all of her family, the cousins and the uncles there, will all spread around Gaza. And now they are being pushed to Rafah. And they are all of them lost their homes. They're talking about like 18 people, 18 families. And they live now in one apartment. And that apartment is in a building that could be bombed right now as we speak. And all because these freaking lies that they were repeating in order to justify the killing of millions of people, while the West is sitting there wasting our time in bullshit discussions. What's a proportionate response? Seriously, are you fucking seriously asking this question? What's a proportionate discussion? This question should have been stopped by the second day of the war. Because what is happening there is a continuous onslaught of killing innocent people using bullshit shits, and the Western media is complicit because they are wasting time by distracting you with useless questions, right? And this is the way. This is the way that their discussion ends to nowhere. They just want to give you the illusion of the freedom of discussion, where they only waste your time while they're letting them do whatever they want.
We're almost out of time. There's a question that, and I'm not saying this because I work for the India Today group, but Bassem, you'll be happy to know that when the India Today group sent me and some of my colleagues to Israel last year to cover what happened after October the 7th, we were the first network that not only reported from Israel, but also went into the Palestinian territories and told both sides of the story. So we brought both sides of the story to this entire thing. So I just wanted to place that on the record, because it's important as far as the media is concerned. War reporting is a difficult job, and the India Today group has definitely shown the way as far as that is concerned.
No, because here's the thing, because you guys know what it means to be dehumanized. You guys know what it means to be ruled by ruthless people who dehumanize you and look down upon you. That is why in America, the people who support the Palestinian rights are African Americans, because they have been through that. They have been through that pain. And they know, and we know. And we know when they do that with all of their like very elegant suits and very nice looks and makeup, they do that behind a facade that is actually full of lies. So we understand we expect nothing less than you. And also I want to thank the amazing staff of India Today. They were amazing, and I have to apologize to them because behind their back, I sneaked out from my room today at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I went to the Taj Mahal, and I came back, right, and they were like, please don't go, please don't go. But like, there's a lot of traffic. So I went at 3 o'clock in the morning, went to the Taj Mahal, and I came here in time. And I said, like, how? Like, we need to lock you in the room. It's like, I escaped from Egypt. Do you think the Taj Palace can contain me? So I apologize if I gave you guys some minimum heart attack. You have a doctor here who can take care of you. I forgot everything about medicine, call 911. But otherwise, I'm extremely, extremely proud and happy and honored to be a guest in this amazing, amazing event. And you guys have made my time, and you basically gave me my best birthday ever in years. So thank you very much.
And while wishing you a very happy birthday in advance, Bassem, I just want to tell everyone here that some people may want to label you as the Jon Stewart of the Arab world, but I think all of us here are going to remember you as Bassem Youssef of America.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.